In the Northeast, the real racist was always the next person. White Northerners would inevitably say, "I'm not racist," and they would give a litany of reasons, X, Y, and Z, to excuse their behavior or their attitudes. And what's staggering about this particular story is that it wasn't just some anonymous black family who wanted to move into these suburban neighborhoods. It was the Robinsons. It was Jackie Robinson. And if white homeowners were offended by his presence on their block, imagine how they would have felt about just some nameless African-American family.
When he swung his bat, the crowd went wild because he knocked that ball a solid mile. Yeah, boy.
Yes, yes, Jackie hit that ball.
Rachel Robinson tells the story of when she would receive the Sunday New York Times every week, and she would look forward to it with great anticipation, and she would thumb through the real estate listings looking for the suburban home of her dreams. And the Robinsons focused on towns in Westchester County, New York, and mostly in Fairfield County, Connecticut. And so Rachel Robinson, through the year of 1953, would go out with a realtor to these New York and Connecticut suburbs. And inevitably, when the sellers found out that it was an African-American family who was putting in a bid on their home or who was coming to their open houses, some excuse would be given.
We were put through the usual bag of tricks right in this state. At first, we were told that the house we were interested in had been sold just before we inquired. Or we would be invited to make an offer, a sort of a seal bid, and then we'd be told that the offers higher than ours had been turned down. Then we tried buying houses on the spot for whatever price was asked. They handled this by telling us the house had been taken off the market. And once we met a broker who told us he would like to help us find a home, but his clients were against selling to Negroes.
I think when a lot of people heard about this story at the time, and when we hear about it now, we have a tendency to ask the question, wasn't there anywhere else they could go? Why were they so set on looking in these towns where the people clearly didn't want them? The short answer to that is no, there wasn't anywhere else the Robinsons could go. They were living in a neighborhood of Queens called St. Albans, which had some nice homes and had many African-American families. But St. Albans was part of an urban school system that was underfunded and mostly racially segregated schools. So if the Robinsons wanted better schools for their kids, they felt that they needed to move to one of these towns. Additionally, St. Albans didn't have the land, the backyards, the ponds that were part of the suburban ideal in America in the 1950s. So the story got more interesting when the Bridgeport Herald published an article in October of 1953. And the Bridgeport Herald interviewed Rachel Robinson about her experiences trying to find a home. And the article appeared under the headline, "North Stamford Nixes Jackie Robinson." So when that article came out in the Bridgeport Herald, that is what moved North Stamford residents to action. It was the fear that they didn't want their town to be labeled as a backwater of racial hatred. They wanted other Americans to see them as they saw themselves, as forward-looking, as progressive, as enlightened and tolerant, a place that was a model for the rest of America. "Look at us," they said, "all eyes upon us." Rachel Robinson went out house hunting with a realtor from North Stamford, and she took to this piece of land that she saw on Cascade Road, which had a pond on it and a huge backyard, and it was in the process of being built, and the builder agreed to sell it to her. And the Robinsons eventually moved into the home on Cascade Road in 1955. And the family had some trials and tribulations in North Stamford, sort of integrating every institution in the town. But in general, it worked out. They found the home of their dreams in suburban Connecticut. And I think this story of the Robinsons looking for a home for a long time, failing to find that home, and eventually succeeding, that story can tell us something about the duality that's at the center of Northeastern race relations, where on the one hand, you have this lofty image that Northerners, Northeasterners were trying to live up to. And on the other hand, you had this stubborn amalgam of behaviors and practices that together represented a very deep commitment to racial segregation. Now, the interesting thing is that sometimes those lofty images could actually pick up the practices and bring them to a higher place. The fact that Northerners wanted to think of themselves as racially progressive, sometimes that belief could help to create the fact. And sometimes this allowed the Northeast to rise up and to leap ahead of the rest of the nation at certain moments. And so the two sides interacting at war with one another, in conflict, in tension, that's the conundrum of race in the Northeast. In many ways, that's the enduring conundrum that we still have.
Did you see Jackie Robinson hit that ball? Did he hit it? Yes! And that ain't all. He sold home!
Yes, yes, Jack is real gone.